You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Doing a weekend show apparently comes at a cost. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. We did take 2 days off this week. Almost took a third. Just getting in what little R&R I can get before the season starts, because there's just no R&R once the season starts. It's go, go, go. There's no nap time. There's no anything. And I had some early morning, some extracurricular things I had to do last few days. Kind of precluded me from getting to the podcast. But we are back. It's Wednesday. And we're going to finish out the week. Hopefully have at least one bonus episode to make up for one of the 2 days missed. Last week we got 5 in. That's still the goal. Even if we start on Wednesday, that's still the goal. So we had a meeting with the players yesterday in Ann Arbor, press conference situation. And there were a couple things that I took away from that. And I don't think that this is going to be like a long episode in the sense, like, I don't think there's anything that is like, whoa, we really need to sit down and talk about this. I could address my Twitter war with Ari Wasserman, former Ohio State writer, who currently is a national writer for The Athletic. We got into it about the Penn State stuff. I don't really feel like getting into that. I still, I mean, if anyone who watches this or listens to this podcast knows how I feel about Penn State. Everything that I ended up responding to is all the stuff I've said. So we'll just get to a couple of these little things that we have and just kind of make it like a potpourri, to go old school Jeopardy on you, of numerous things that we can talk about, which I would prefer to have like 2-3 things, but maybe we have 5-6 things and we'll just hit them all in 20 something minutes here. So anyway, the first one that I thought was most important, which out of all the stories that I wrote yesterday, this is one that got the least amount of page views. It's the one that got the least amount of shares. And to me, it's the most important thing that's come out of the press conference. So I don't know what the deal was there. But to me, this is important. This was like, it wasn't the first thing I wrote just because I wanted to crank something out just to feel productive, right? I'm sure you have that sometimes. Just get an easy win, type of thing. But Roman Wilson, when we spoke to him, he had a couple things that were very important that he said. Asked about the complacency and stuff like that. He said, our goals for the season is different. Last year was more like beat our rivals, but this year is more like we want it all. We want to beat our rivals, go to the playoffs, Big Ten championship, all that. We want to come for it all. We do. We don't want to be, and this is the most important part, we don't want to be what old Michigan was like. We want to set a new standard for us. Before I get to any more of his quotes, that is a very big recognition for this team in particular, right? Like, you hear some kind of variation of this, usually from any team that's struggling. But with like the Ohio State thing, for a long time it was, well, we're just sick of losing to those guys. All right. But when it comes to this team, considering that there's a lot of discussion about where is this team? How do they have that energy, that focus after having done it last year? And because some kind of think that maybe they'll go into it feeling like mission accomplished to some degree. Look at Banner, Michael. But they didn't do that in the Big Ten championship last year, even though that was something that a lot of people were very concerned with, more than national media. I'll tell you what, man, there's not, just to kind of go back with my Twitter war with Ari Wasserman, there's just, I don't have a lot of respect for a lot of national media people when it comes to sometimes I just think that they're over the way that they view things. It's so reactionary, right? I am going to devolve into that Twitter war just for a second, because the whole thing was Ari was arguing that Penn State's in a better situation to win a national championship in the next 5 years than Michigan or Michigan State. Said, oh, who would be behind Ohio State? He said Penn State. And his reason why is they've been recruiting so good. And that's only in 2023. And I know they had a good class a year ago, 2 years ago. Michigan's been right there, right? If you look at current talent on the rosters, Michigan, according to the 24/7 Sports Composite, is one spot ahead of Penn State. So I only am bringing that up right now just to basically not to call him out. He called me names. I wasn't going to do that. I don't hate, again, you don't have the same, you can have an argument without hating somebody. But I'm not saying that to call him out. What I'm doing is elucidating on the idea that I think the national media oftentimes they have lazy arguments. And I get it. You're trying to cover essentially 131 teams, but there's a reason why Texas is back every year, why USC. There's a reason for optimism with USC right now. With Lincoln Riley there and all, they're getting the transfers and everything like that. But it's lots of lazy arguments. Whoever was, really good one year is going to be automatically amazing the next. Think about Northwestern at this time last year, right? It was like, oh, they're going to be so good again. And listen to this show, would have told you they weren't going to be because they lost so much of their talent. But lots of lazy narratives out there. And one of the lazy narratives when it comes to Michigan is always just, there's multiple ones, but it all kind of is this idea that, they got over the hump, so that's it. That they're not going to do anything more. They can't grow. Whatever they were able to do, that is the end of it. So what Roman Wilson, I know it's taken a long time for me to get back here. But Roman Wilson is saying, we don't want to be that version of Michigan. That is not who we want to be. We essentially do not want to be 9-3 Michigan. We want to be in that same situation like Ryan Day had said about 10-2 at Ohio State is unacceptable. Michigan wants to be exactly that. They want to look at this as, hey, 10-2 is unacceptable. 9-3 is unacceptable. We need to be able to go out there and achieve all of our goals, beat up both of our rivals, go to the Big Ten championship, win that, go to the college football playoff, win that. And I think that when you have attitude meets recruiting meets development, that's where things all come together. Kind of reminds me of Hard Knocks. Just what Dan Campbell was saying on Tuesday night's episode. About we need to shake these pants free of those old attitudes of, the reasons that we got here to this point where the Lions are a losing franchise. I know there's one sentence that Roman Wilson said, old Michigan. But to me, they recognize it. It's one of those things. It's like Office Space, they fixed the glitch, that could be the situation that we're looking at. We'll continue on here with what else he had to say. He said, it's no surprise we haven't done that well in the past few years. We want to take our game up here, raising his hand. We want to be considered one of the best when we leave the program. And I feel like each successive generation for Michigan has kind of done that to some degree. 2015 and 16 got Michigan back in positive territory, New Year's Six bowls, that kind of thing. 17 wasn't a good year, but 17, 18, 19, I think it was just at least keeping that level. 2020, obviously a big step back. 2021 raises the bar. So they're still trying to keep raising that bar. He continued, just like effort and energy. When I was a freshman, I always felt like, well, we were working hard, but just the difference, we've come along in the amount of energy and the guys really want to. It just feels different. Like you can't even explain it. People talk expletive deleted to each other in practice, family show. They get upset over plays and nobody likes to lose. Everyone's a sore loser. This is just, it's competitive. So it does seem like there's an attitude shift. And I will tell you a very quick story before we go to break. Apparently this is going to be a longer episode than I thought. I had a parent of a former player tell me about when they decided that they were sick of it. Was their sophomore year and Michigan was down to Wisconsin. It was the first half. Guys are looking all sad. Guys are crying on the bench. And that was when that player said, no longer. This is not what we're going to be. And that's not what they are anymore. So, all right, let's continue on here with just these general discussions. We might just have 3 things we do cover. We'll see. You're hanging out with some friends and putting back a few drinks. A few becomes too many. As the evening comes to an end and people start to head out, you think of calling for a ride. Now, you know what? You live nearby. You can make it home okay. It's no big deal. What are the odds you get pulled over anyway? And even so, what's the worst can happen? Your insurance could go up. You could lose your license. You could lose your job. You total your car. You could kill someone. Everyone knows the risks of driving drunk. The results are tragic and often deadly. However, that doesn't stop everyone from getting behind the wheel while under the influence. That's why police officers are out there right now looking for impaired drivers on our roads to save lives. If you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again, play it safe, and plan ahead to get a ride. It only takes one mistake to change your life or someone else's forever. Drive sober or get. All right, let's continue on. Microphone is still falling. I know someone said put a block under it. I can't do that with the way my arm is, my boom arm here. It's spring loaded. I can fix it. I threw away the thing to know what to do, and I haven't looked online because I forget about it. So anyway, we just have to, if you're watching on video, just have to constantly be readjusting over and over and over again. All right, let's continue on with other important things here. I do want to go to one of the short ones that's going to take like 3 minutes to discuss, maybe 4. And that's a name. This is something I wrote today, a name that's come up multiple times. That's definitely a surprise name. And sometimes these things have come not really to complete fruition, but I'm trying to remember. There was a name that came up in 20. I wonder if I can find this. It would have been one of the first things I wrote for Wolverines Wire. But there was a name that came up in 2018, for instance, where where it was just like everyone was like, oh man, this guy's going to be really good. And it was like back when I would still, put my ear to the ground and do some things like that. But it was one of those things where it was like, yeah, there's this walk on. He's got really, really warranted with his hype and who they were talking about. I mean, honestly, it was someone who did make kind of a difference, and it was Jake McCurry. Yeah, I couldn't remember. I had to go look him up. Heard it from multiple people. Well, there is yet another person that is getting some hype as a former walk-on. And that is, or not former walk-on, he is a walk-on. That's wide receiver Peyton O'Leary. Peyton O'Leary has been now mentioned in 2 separate interviews 2 weeks apart with 2 different questions. So the first one was me asking Ronnie Bell, who do you think is going to surprise people coming out of the wide receiver room? I expected him to say someone like Darius Clemens is really going to surprise people, or maybe Andrell Anthony. Like, I thought it was going to be like, oh, Andrell's out there making circus type catches. He's just so good. He said Peyton O'Leary. And then I said, why? And he's like, he's just really good. Then yesterday, when we were talking to Mike Sainris still, I asked him, who is the hardest wide receiver to guard now that you are on the other side of the ball? Like before, you used to be able to say, hey, this guy's really good. This guy's really good just based off of what he's doing. I'm like, it's a different perspective now because you were going up against these guys. And while he did say, the usual suspects, he did say, pretty much everyone on the list. He did say Ronnie Bell, he did say Andrell, he did say Cornelius, Roman. I think Roman was the first one he mentioned. He also said Peyton O'Leary. And Peyton O'Leary, he had a little bit more to add. He said I don't even think of him as a walk-on. He's just really good. And then after I posted that story today, I had a former staffer reach out to me and say, as someone who was on staff last year, and they said, this kid is incredible, that he would play at most other schools, but that don't have the depth that we already have with the scholarship players. Like, he is that good. He is the type of guy that would play. It's like a Davis Warren type situation in his mind. So we've seen and heard these things before. Jake McCurry was a guy that we saw in some meaningful minutes in some big games in 2018 and 2019. We've seen Nate Shanley, who had the best spring game in 2017. I think he was kind of just held back with injury to some degree. And heck, we've seen True Wilson as a walk-on safety, switching to running back and be the third back for 2 years. So I don't think it's something you can write off, right? So it's a deep room, so I guess I question how much he's going to be available. But it's something that multiple people are saying, so I'll be interested to see if that ends up being a thing. All right, let's continue on. Let's address why Michigan football might be further along than it was this year, at this time last year. So that was something that emanated from Dave Revson. Dave Revson from Big Ten Network continued to just heap praise upon the Wolverines this week. Just like they had a show and he's sitting there talking about with, now that they've been to all 14 places and they started out talking about Ohio State. And it's like, people are really underestimating Michigan. They look better than they did this time last year. Like, yes, we have questions about the defense, but Cade, his balls, better way to say this, anything he throws doesn't hit the ground. He's that good that he would take Cade McNamara over JJ McCarthy for that reason. Still raving about Eric All. Still raving about the offensive line. Says this is an offensive line that lost 2 people and looks better than it did last year. So I asked Mike Sainristil, why is Michigan seeming like it's ahead? And he said, definitely there's a lot of grit on this team. A lot of young guys have some stuff to them that this team is going to need. And no one on this team right now is focusing on banking on what we did last season. Everybody understands that this is a new team. And we don't have those same guys we had last year. Even like as an individual, nobody is the same person they were last year. So as guys continue stepping into different leadership roles, everyone's just focusing on making sure this upcoming team is the best team it could possibly be. So that was actually answered to another question. Then I asked him his question, and he said, I would say sharpness in practice. Young guys going from the bridge program, coming to practice, understanding when they had to split their time in practice, maize practice, blue practice. It's helped them tremendously, I would say. Guys are just very focused right now, and just everyone understands what we want to make it further than we did last year. So everything just plays into that mindset, and it's helping us to get to where we are right now. But we just know that we have a lot more to go. So again, that's another situation where it's a recognition of just because we did what we did last year, we are not satisfied with that. This is a new team. There are new players. We want to continue to do this. All right, let's continue on. But before we do, BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all of your betting needs. Find all of your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. Find reviews and news of every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all your sports wagering information, from live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts. They have you covered. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more about the action happening today. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, we have just a few more minutes. We're not going to go 30. We'll go like 24, 25. Just for the sake of, I feel like I'm just reading things and saying, yeah, listen, you read that? You hear me? That's just where I'm at. But I just want to reiterate some things here about what I feel here about this team. I think there's a mixture of the talent, the coaching. Now, there's still a lot that we have to learn, right? Like when I come out here and say, I think the defense is going to be better, and I feel pretty strongly convicted about that. And I started feeling that, I think, before, Big Ten Media Days, even when Jim Harbaugh was out there saying it, because I just started to think about all of that experience that Michigan has. That, it might not be starting experience, but it's experience. And then I started thinking 2016 to 2017 and guys playing faster. And then that's what we're hearing, right? New defensive coordinator, guys playing faster. That said, yes, I do have some reservations, right? It's not a situation where I think it's 100%. It's just going to be better. Book it. Anything you can throw at that, then go ahead and do it. That's not at all what I'm saying. Because because I'm convicted with it, just because I think that there's a really good shot that this team could be better, the defense could be better. I think we all think the offense could be better. We have seen things go awry, right? 2019, everyone was just awash with this idea that offense was going to take off. Shea Patterson's back. You've got some really good receivers. You've got some really good running backs. The offensive line seems like it's really got some good pieces coming out of 2018 going into 2019. Josh Gaddis should open up the offense. It didn't work out that way, right? Eventually, it ended up being pretty good by the end of the year. But it didn't really open itself up the way that you would think with like Shea Patterson, Nico Collins, Donovan Peoples-Jones. Like it had its moments, but it wasn't like just going nuts. Zach Charbonnet was really good. Hassan Haskins was really good, but it didn't become this big wild offense like everyone kind of hoped. We've seen these stories before. And it's not that I'm saying that you should be in your black pit of negative expectations. I'm not saying that you should be looking at it being an old Michigan type of thing, but there is a chance that there is some growing pains, whether it's defensive coordinator, Jesse Minter, just his style in game being different. This is his first time in the Big Ten, and I would imagine his NFL pedigree has helped him prepare for going to a lesser league, but I guess sometimes you never know. I feel pretty good about the Sherrone Moore, Matt Weiss situation, but again, maybe it doesn't work. These are new play callers. Again, Matt Weiss from Baltimore Ravens to Michigan. I feel like he had a lot of fingerprints on the offense last year. Sherrone Moore, I think, is clearly a rising star. Who thought the offensive line was going to get better after Ed Warner left? I certainly did not. The injuries could happen. There's multiple things that could go wrong, but there's also multiple things that could go right. But you hope that if Michigan finds itself in a random dogfight against a team it has no business being in a dogfight with, which you can probably assume it will. We've seen most teams go through that. Some of those dominant Clemson teams lost to Syracuse. Ohio State found itself, Oregon's probably not like a team it didn't have any business losing to, but I mean, at the same time, no one expected that. They've had their dogfights with Nebraska. Michigan had its dogfight with Nebraska last year. It had it with Rutgers 2 years in a row. So you just never know what's going to happen. So they have to weather those storms, and I think that's where it's good that they have experience, but who's going to be that Aiden type guy? Mike Sainer still kind of sounds like he might be that guy. Mozzie Smith, Cade McNamara, Blake Corum, and Olu as well. I'm not really sure who's going to be the team captains. I'm sure we will find out, I'm assuming, on Thursday. But I do think that this team has the fortitude to get past some of those hurdles. They might not get punched in the mouth until Iowa. I think they'll get punched in the mouth against Maryland. Honestly, Maryland, I think, is going to be like the Rutgers game, just higher scoring. I think it's going to be who's got it in them. So we'll see how that goes. All right, that's going to do it for us today. Mailbag tomorrow. Get your questions in on Twitter. And we're going to try to do 4 at least this week, even starting a day late. Yes, that might mean a Saturday episode, Saturday or Sunday. It is game week next week, so wouldn't preclude the idea from having it on Sunday. But anyway, thank you for watching and or listening. We will talk to you again soon. Peace.